all day.
All right, what's up, guys? I want to talk to you today about Goodwill, the Goodwill stores, and why I pretty much, for the most part, avoid this store when it comes to sourcing. I don't think it's a good utilization of time. When I say avoid it, I really mean that I don't prioritize it. Obviously, if it's the only thing in your area, and if you're just pulling $500 items out of there every week, completely disregard what I'm saying. But for the most part, I think if you experience this and do this long enough, you'll find the same things I do on this. And so I'm going to give you several reasons why I personally avoid the Goodwill store. Now, when it comes to Goodwill, you've got two different types of stores. You got the Goodwill brick and mortar store, and then you've got the Goodwill outlet. So when we're talking about the outlet, I don't avoid this at all. This is still a good place to get some dirt cheap volume and get some high margin items. It's a little bit of mayhem in there, but I still go there pretty often, every once in a while at least. But with the Goodwill actual stores, I find to be the worst of all the options of sourcing, and I'm going to break down why. The first reason why is because Goodwill is the oldest of the thrift stores, and this reselling thing within the last few years has gotten kind of popular. So for any reseller that's going to be brand new to the game, the first thing they're going to learn is that, oh wait, you can go into different stores and find items and sell them on eBay, and you can profit money off of them. And so in any typical person's brain, Goodwill is going to be the very first one they think of, right? Like, name a thrift store, and Goodwill is going to be the first one to come out of their mouth. So every single person that's getting into this game, and when I talk about this game, you have to remember that the reselling game has like no barrier to entry. Almost anyone can get in. Not everyone can be successful at it, but almost anyone can get in at the ground level, which means even the really, really bad people, the people that are doing poorly at it, they're still pulling things out of Goodwill stores and taking them out of other resellers' hands. And so Goodwill is the most frequented and the most run over store when it comes to that. On top of that, for the resellers that have been doing it for 10 to 15 years, Goodwill was probably the one that they started at, right? And so what I've noticed in a lot of these Goodwills is not only are they overrun with new resellers and people that are new to the game, just getting in there, trying things out for the first time, but also a lot of the Goodwills in my area especially, the workers at the Goodwill have worked out special deals with people that have come in and out of the store. And and this the only way for that to be developed, these are obviously other resellers, right, that have been frequenting these stores for 10 to 15 years, and they've built these type of relationships over 10 to 15 years where the workers at the store will put things back for them. And the best example I can give of that is at my closest good Goodwill store in the area that I source. I was in there one day and I noticed one of the workers handed a pair of Yeezy 350 V2 Sesames over the counter to a person that was shopping and said, here they are, and sold them to him for $10, and they were brand new with tags, and obviously these are $220 shoes retail, and he just handed it to him. And so I get to talking with that guy, and he says, yeah, I've worked out a deal with these guys where they put anything that comes through that says the word Yeezy on it behind the counter for me. And my head's like spinning at this point. I'm thinking, so the reason that I've never found anything like a pair of Yeezys in this particular Goodwill is because anytime one comes through the store, it's already picked over and personally set aside for another reseller. So that should tell you everything you need to know about Goodwill. There's OG resellers, and that's not to say that I haven't worked these kind of deals myself, but if you're trying to get into this new, you're facing an uphill battle against guys that have worked these kind of deals. I personally don't work those kind of deals because I think it's really not in the best interest of everyone for that to happen. But at the same time, I can see, hustler, real recognize real. I can see why that's a good strategy as well. But it also means that when I go into a Goodwill, that's one more item off the shelf. Like, I'm never going to find a pair of Yeezys in that Goodwill. So who knows what other deals other resellers have worked out. But I know one of the best items right off the bat isn't ever going to be in my Goodwill. And so that's reason number two. Backdoor deals that the Goodwill employees have worked out with other resellers over the past 15 years, which those type of Relationships obviously aren't going to be built overnight. Those are going to be the type of relationships that took years and years to build. And so if you're a new reseller that's been doing it 6 months or less, good luck building those type of relationships in that same exact place because they're already built, right? So again, picked over by everyone. And reason number 2, backdoor deals with people that frequent those places. Reason number 3, and you can verify this looking on some of the thrift or reseller websites and chat rooms and stuff, but Goodwill price gouges now. And they've really kind of caught on to the reselling thing, and they've really started actually looking things up on eBay, hiring dedicated people to go through their store and look things up on eBay. They've started their own online platform for selling stuff online, so they want a chunk of this pie. And they personally started opening Amazon stores to sell their books. They started selling stuff right on eBay themselves as well. So they're getting into the game, and that might be actually kind of a 2-part of one reason thing, because not only is Goodwill starting to price gouge and really looking things up and selling them for more money if they're worth anything, but also they're opening their own stores, eBay and Amazon and that kind of thing, and selling the stuff themselves. So good luck if they have anybody that knows what they're doing whatsoever in that store finding stuff to flip, because most of the good stuff is either going to be gouged or it's going to be already on their personal store. And another thing with that, I've seen actual like photos people have shared in some of these groups where they've got North Face jackets that Goodwill has a $90 ticket on. So that kind of leads into reason number 4, because if you have a North Face jacket at Goodwill that basically sells probably brand new close to $90, then that item's either just going to keep getting discounted deeply until it ends up back in the bins, which is where we're going to be able to pull it out of there for a weighted value anyways of something like $1 per pound. So as resellers, we have an invested interest to kind of let that overpriced stuff just sit. And maybe if we all did that, everything would just end up back in the store and back in the Goodwill outlet. And to me, it's like, well, you're kind of sticking it to Goodwill when you do that. Well, actually, for me, it's like there's good reason for that. And maybe reason number 3, but reason number 4 is the reason for that. And that's that Goodwill has kind of pulled some shady stuff in the past. So just so you know, Goodwill is a for-profit business with no cost of goods sold. And the reason they have no cost of goods sold is because everyone donates it to them. But rather than like really be a charity, they are a for-profit business that just resells that item. And so their whole thing, the charity that they provide is supposed to be providing a good products for affordable prices to local community members. Well, if they're price gouging, then they're not really being charitable on the good things. They're just selling junk for junk prices to people that need the break. So they're not really giving a break to the local people on the good items. So if that's the case, then we should just not buy the items to resell. We should just let them price gouge, let their items sit, and let them end up back in the Goodwill bins anyways. Because like I said, their CEO, because they're for profit, their CEO makes 6 figures. And then on top of that, they decided when times got tough to cut paychecks for disabled workers. So like, I don't know, to me that's kind of a little bit shady. You know, you got a CEO that makes 6 figures, you could take something out of his pocket, but instead you think the best option is to cut paychecks for disabled workers. So that to me is a good enough reason to stick it to them and say, hey, I'm not going to buy your overpriced items. I'm going to wait till they end up in the outlets and get them for the price I want to pay anyways. So just going through the list, you got Goodwill is the low-hanging fruit for every new reseller. You're going to find them in that store picking over the store. Number 2, they do backdoor deals with the people that they've known for years, and so that's going to limit the items that you find in there. Number 3, they price gouge. Number 4, they basically, when they price gouge, they end up making the things end up going back to the Goodwill outlet anyway. So if you don't source there, a lot of the items you want will end up going to the Goodwill outlets. And so if we all collectively did that, we'd be in good shape. And so those are some good reasons to me not to source Goodwill. And I think, most of them are the reasons why whenever I'm looking at the different places that I go, I don't prioritize that. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how did you get to realize that? Well, that took probably 5 years. So I'm kind of saving you the work doing that. And like I said, 10 years ago, Goodwill was the spot. That's where every reseller, was good at, and they hadn't really caught on to these things yet, so they stopped doing that as well. But as time went on, they started catching on, and they became the most frequent in place. They became aware of things. They started selling stuff themselves, and they started price gouging. And for all these reasons, I just kind of avoid it, because to me, I kind of look at it this way. If you spend an hour in any store, right, you should look at how much potential profit dollars can I make per every hour I spend in that store. And I guarantee if you compare Goodwill to any of the other stores you source, well, at least if I compared Goodwill to any of the other stores I sourced, Goodwill would fall last on the list of dollars per hour. So unless Goodwill's the only thing in that area, basically I'm better off, and I'm utilizing my time better over the course of 1 hour being in almost any other store. And I think that if you go out and start sourcing and looking around at different Goodwills and stuff, and looking around at other thrift stores, even Marshalls, TJ Maxx, and those type of places, because I actually prefer retail arbitrage anyways. I think it's more fruitful. I think there's more out there, and I think it's a little bit more acceptable of a way to do things. I think that you're going to find that you are actually wasting your time in Goodwill, that you should really just stick to the Goodwill outlet where you can get it for a much better margin, and don't waste your time looking at stuff that's already been picked over, that's been set back for other people, that's been priced too high, or any of those reasons. I mean, those are all great reasons, or from a company that doesn't really want to act in the best interest and be charitable to begin with, because that's really what they're supposed to be, is a charity. And so, and I actually kind of want to say this to any of the thrift stores: you guys shouldn't be against resellers, because all we're doing is we're doing the work for you to get your items in front of the eyes of a lot more people. And to me, it's like you're being charitable, and if you're supposed to be charitable, why is your community more important than the entire world? If there's somebody across the planet that could benefit from having that item for a discounted price, to me, that guy's not more important than the guy down the road from me that could also benefit from having that item at a discounted price. And so at a small upcharge, a reseller's coming into your store and putting the items that are worthwhile in front of the eyes of the entire world, and generating more sales for you, and making your registers ring more, and giving you that baseline that keeps your store open. So I don't think you guys should have the attitude some of the outlets or some of the thrift stores have. I don't think that those stores should have the attitudes they have towards resellers, because I think a lot of us resellers are actually a bigger asset to your bottom line than you think they are. But with that being said, I do think that Goodwill is the most avoidable of the thrift stores, and that when you go in there, you're going to find the least per hour on average than you will at any of the other stores. And I think I've given you quite a few good reasons why that's the case. But go ahead and comment down below and tell me where your favorite places to source are. Maybe you're a Goodwill killer. Maybe that's the only place you find good stuff. Or let me know what some of your other least favorite places are, or your experiences at Goodwill. Also, feel free to like the video if you found this useful to you, and subscribe to the page for more content like this. But otherwise, get out there, start thrifting, figure out what you like. But just as a heads up, this was not meant to be a negative video towards Goodwill. This wasn't meant to be a bashing session on Goodwill. This was meant to just be informational to you, a new reseller, or somebody that's been reselling a while and can't figure out why their Goodwill finds are going down. Well, I wanted to put it out there and let you know some of the things I've discovered going on with Goodwill that gives us good reason to avoid that store, or at least not prioritize it when we have limited hours to source in that day. But hope you enjoyed. But get out there, keep flipping, and until next time, I'll check you later.